Settle down, brother. This is the Kohler Report powered by ENCA.com. South Africa is a movie. Welcome to the watch party. South Africa last night was a late night cinema thriller because the ad hoc committee finally convened to investigate General Mkhwanazi's allegations, claims and evidence of police corruption and political interference, and it was bombshell after bombshell. At least 7 bombshells from General Mkhwanazi last night in an extraordinary session where he said that crime intelligence needs to be laid to waste, everybody fired, and to start the entire organization over, where he said that ministers like Mthethwa got compromised by crime intelligence, when he claimed that crime intelligence has bugged all of the members of parliament, MPs in the room, and he claimed that arrests are coming for meddlers into his investigations, as well as so much more. We're going to get into all of these 7 massive bombshells from General Mkhwanazi. And just so you know, that's why we're not talking about Brown Mokgotsi being called before the Madlanga Commission. That's why we're not talking about Fikile Mbalula saying that he's going to lay criminal charges against Brown Mokgotsi for defamation of character. There is so much going on in the country, but we have to once again talk about 7 massive bombshells on the Kohler Report. By the way, just as we started recording, just found out that this morning, one of the MPs who General Mkhwanazi called out in one of the most badass movie lines, script, mic drop like lines I have ever heard somebody say in Parliament. Dianne Barnard from the DA is not in the session today. We're going to tell you more about the ramifications of that. The only place to watch the full show is on ENCA.com. Click on the link in the YouTube description if you want to watch the full show, including the WhatsApp line. And of course, you can also buy some 3 Beanies Network merchandise to support us. And go to the link in the description on YouTube and buy your merchandise. The WhatsApp number is 0607 613 436. I plugged all of that so much faster than usual today because there is so much for us to talk about. Yesterday, the reason why Mkhwanazi ended up speaking late into the night and you didn't read any media reporting about what he said because all the journalists had gone home by 5-6 p.m. and all we saw was the video cut downs from the live broadcasting is partially because Julius Malema made the point that the ad hoc committee in Parliament is not some kind of junior commission to the Madlanga Commission, and we needed some kind like the committee needed to get primary, not supplementary evidence sworn in and like under oath and all that, even though other people made the point that Mkhwanazi would just then largely have to repeat himself from what he'd said at Madlanga, which he did say under oath at Madlanga. But it was also partially because of the grandstanding. And we knew that the dangers of a political process, meaning that people were going to try and do cheap point scoring. And some of the reason why it started so late is that every MP was trying to push their party's hot take and what people wanted to think about their party. Not talking about Malema, by the way, with his point about the primary and the supplementary evidence. I'm talking about a lot of the other grandstanding, which was so insufferable, so time consuming. But what was great was when Mkhwanazi started speaking, they were all feeling caught out. He was calling out everybody. He was putting them in their place. And I can't believe I'm saying this about a politician, they were listening. They were really listening to him.
If you ever wanted proof that South Africa's political class is so disappointing, it was there. I'm extremely relieved that the ad hoc committee is not the only group that is investigating this. And if this is what they're doing in public, can you imagine what they're doing when we're not watching?
Totally. But what I am enjoying is that Mkhwanazi is doing something slightly different in the ad hoc committee. He's calling out the political class. He's calling them out and saying, Madlanga exists because you all have failed the police. You all have failed me. I came before your standing committee on police earlier this year. You all didn't do anything. You all have been leaking information you shouldn't be leaking. And that was really nice for him to be able to like put them in their place, essentially. So let's talk about the 7 bombshells. I've tried to put them in an order, but they're all massive. Okay, so the very first biggest bombshell from Monday is that General Mkhwanazi believes that the Crime Intelligence Division of SAPS needs to be scrapped completely, emptied over, and they need to start again because he argues that crime intelligence is so compromised. He was talking about bad apples in crime intelligence who he realized were bad back in 2011, around the time that he was acting National Police Commissioner under Mthethwa's Police Minister and Jacob Zuma's administration. And he says that a lot of them are still there. He says that it's so rotten and so compromised that it needs to be scrapped. It needs like a literal hard factory reset, drop an iPhone in a swimming pool and then put it in rice, like that level. He reiterated his point that Dumisani Khumalo, head of crime intelligence, but on bail on what he says are stitched up allegations of police corruption against him. He says that Dumisani Khumalo is being targeted to be taken out because he was causing problems for these criminal networks, a lot of which have been using crime intelligence to stop investigations into themselves. So that's the first one. Then he talked about Nathi Mthethwa recently passed. And he literally said, Nathi Mthethwa's recently passed, but we've all seen the videos of the homestead that Nathi Mthethwa built for his family, and that it's got a big wall on the outside. It was giving Donald Trump big, beautiful wall vibes. Crime intelligence has a covert slush fund, which is what a lot of these allegations are about, right? Crime intelligence has got a covert budget that they can spend for the interests of crime intelligence, which has got next to no oversight over it because the argument is that the secret services need to be able to spend money on things without the public finding out, without government finding out, to suit the needs of their pursuit of criminals, whether that be renting safe houses, purchasing properties. The investigations into National Police Commissioner Fani Masemola and Dumisani Khumalo right now, and the allegations of corruption are about whether or not they used police resources inappropriately to buy over 100 million rands worth of properties. So big bombshell number 2 is that General Mkhwanazi said that Nathi Mthethwa did not choose to have that wall built for him around his homestead, but it was funded by crime intelligence's budget and their slush fund. And Mkhwanazi said that once that wall had been built, that compromised Nathi Mthethwa as police minister because he couldn't then call out crime intelligence for wrongdoing. He couldn't call them out for saying you are misspending funds on certain things because crime intelligence now had dirt on him. They would then respond and say, well, if you tell anybody about any money that we're spending inappropriately or unlawfully, then we will report on you that you got a wall at your homestead with our money that you should never have got. General Mkhwanazi says arrests are imminent. They are coming for people who have meddled in his investigations. And he says that they will end up in court. That's important. It's about the 121 police dockets being returned to the PKTT, the Political Killings Task Team in KZN. But it's about General Mkhwanazi saying with confidence that his teams have enough evidence to arrest high-ranking members of SAPS, high-ranking government officials, probably high-ranking politicians or at least politically connected people. He says they have enough evidence to get arrest warrants to arrest those people, and that those cases will end up in court. Those people will end up on trial. The fact that he's so confident that that will happen, that he will say this in an ad hoc committee, given his track record so far of when he says something is going to happen in terms of evidence, it usually then happens, like he usually provides evidence for it and things usually happen, that is really significant. Then he said that MPs and media houses have been leaking classified police intelligence to South Africa, and he wants investigations into them. He said that of media houses and certain journalists, but he also specifically said that of Dianne Kohler Barnard, MP for the Democratic Alliance, who unbelievably awkwardly is on the ad hoc committee and was sitting there yesterday watching him as General Mkhwanazi literally looked her dead in the eyes by what the cameras were catching. And Dianne Kohler Barnard had been accused by Mkhwanazi of leaking sensitive police material that, according to him, she knew she shouldn't release to the South African public. Mkhwanazi at, I think it was Madlanga, said that that was part of a targeted, intentional operation to besmirch his police teams and their investigations, to hamstring and slow down their investigations. So Dianne Kohler Barnard had then responded by demanding that Mkhwanazi go in front of South Africa on national TV and apologize to her. And then in one of two, I think, really iconic mic drop lines, Mkhwanazi, well, he said this.
The member of parliament that I referred to before went out in the public and said, no, when I asked these questions, there was no joint standing committee of intelligence. And the member asked me to apologize in the national TV. I told everyone else that told me about that I will apologize to the honorable member. I'm apologizing that the honorable member had forgotten the oath that she took. I forgot. I apologize for it. That she took an oath. That oath has got an expiry date according to her. That this one is valid only for the period when the joint standing committee exists. When a joint standing committee doesn't exist, that oath that she took, it expires. The honourable member that forget that she took an oath before South Africans in Parliament not to divulge the secret of government. And she forgot about the oath. I apologize for that.
So that happened, and a bunch of political parties, including the ANC and Action SA, on the ad hoc committee called for DKB. It sounds like Kevin De Bruyne's untalented sister. So they called for her to be recused, and Brett Herron from the Good Party tweeted something which I think really nailed it. Whether or not she broke the oath of secrecy she took as a member of the Joint Intelligence Committee and leaked confidential information, as alleged by General Mkhwanazi, DA MP Dianne Kohler Barnard can't be a member of a parliamentary inquiry and an implicated person at the inquiry at the same time. If she has any honor, she would have already stood down. Now, the DA's Ian Cameron came out and said that no one was going to recuse themselves, but as I mentioned in the intro, he announced in Parliament that Dianne Kohler Barnard will not be attending in person today. He said that there have been no genuine legal accusations made, but they are seeking legal advice, but she'll not be in attendance today. So she's not recusing herself, but she is not there. And I'm sure that was a party decision to make, because today everyone's watching the ad hoc committee, and today in particular, MPs on that committee are going to get to ask Mkhwanazi questions. And what the DA really don't want is for the headline to be Kohler Barnard fighting with Mkhwanazi about whether or not she inappropriately broke an oath of secrecy and leaked classified police intelligence to the South African public. Because if that becomes the story, unbelievably damaging for the Democratic Alliance as a whole. So I suspect it's more likely that DKB didn't make this decision, but that the DA made this decision. Pep made the decision, not Kevin, about Kevin being benched. So the next mic drop line that got a lot of coverage, which I just, you know what, it was I think it's the smallest of the bombshells, but it got a lot of coverage. So one of the members of the ad hoc committee told General Mkhwanazi that Bheki Cele had said that he was a good cop. And Mkhwanazi said, that's good that he knows that I'm a good cop, which means that he knows. In fact, let's just play the clip.
He told us he's got a lot of admiration. He's got high admiration for you. He said, you're a very good cop.
Yeah, well, it's good because
you're not a politician.
It's good because then the general will know that if there's a law broken, even if he breaks the law, I'll arrest him as well. That is my job.
Now, that was an interesting moment because it was just, again, Mkhwanazi saying, don't F with me, basically. Like, nobody is above me or nobody through a level of power can escape me. I will deal with everyone. But the reason why I think it was a big bombshell is that in the past, Bheki Cele has performed a republic relationship with Mkhwanazi saying that he's a good cop. Like, technically, Bheki Cele was the police minister when the PKTT was started, and Mkhwanazi was involved in all of that in KZN. And so there's been this question about Mkhwanazi's relationship with Bheki Cele as the commission has unfolded and as people have gone back into recent history and seen the direct quotes about what Bheki Cele has said and how he has been in close proximity with Mkhwanazi at different moments in the last, let's say, 7 years to a decade. And so him saying, no, I'll deal with Bheki also is a huge signal about their current relationship. So I don't think that line itself is the bombshell. I think what that line signifies about Mkhwanazi's true feelings about Bheki Cele is the bigger takeaway there. Then number 6 is a bombshell. He says there needs to be lifestyle audits for top cops in SAPS. Frankly, can't believe they aren't already. And he said, SAPS can't do that. There needs to be an independent committee. But of course, like, if you think that we don't want politicians to get compromised by secret money, we really don't want police officials to be compromised by secret money. And then the seventh bombshell, to show the extent to which crime intelligence, Mkhwanazi believes, is an insidious law unto themselves in this country that needs to be scrapped and started over. He said that, and he pointed around Parliament and he said, they're bugging all of you. They are bugging all of you MPs. They are listening in on all of your stuff through what he said was gadgets, which really, again, paints this picture of a mafia state of criminal networks and a compromised police force where elite, secretive spooks, spies, crime intelligence, and the rest are not working for the interests of South Africa, are not performing their constitutional duties or their government or their democratic vote-mandated duties. They are working for themselves. Everyone is an enemy. They're watching and bugging everybody, and they're working for their own ends. So, 7 bombshells. What do you make of all this, James?
I find it interesting the difference in tone that Mkhwanazi has set up between the Madlanga Commission, because that's the real benefit for me of these two separate investigations is the fact that we are getting side-by-side comparisons between the two, between the Madlanga Commission and the Ad Hoc Committee. Mkhwanazi, to me, has come out far more combatively in this one. And you could probably argue it's got something to do with the fact that he is addressing a lot of the people like Dianne Barnard, who...
Dianne Barnard.
Because she's stopping the investigation.
Hey, I'm going to turn to your camera for this. That was not scripted. That's just some Kohler Brothers magic / nonsense, depending on your sense of humor.
I really like the fact that you turned away from your microphone so no one heard that.
I can see on the waveform that they heard me.
Okay, well, you guys will know whether that came through or not. So obviously this change in tone can be probably chalked up to the fact that he was addressing some of the people that he had accused earlier, like Dianne Barnard. But I think even then, Mkhwanazi seems to trust very few people. Actually, I was just looking at the
live text.
The live text as we were recording, and he's just spoken on the fact that he believes that IDAC is split into two. There's the good bits and the rogue bits, as he refers to. IDAC.
So he mentioned that at Madlanga. So IDAC is the Independent Directorate Against Corruption.
Yeah.
And they're part of what he says are compromised, along with the IGI. And then I think it was it was from the WhatsApp messages about whether or not there's a rat in IPID.
Yeah. So I think all of that is interesting. What I'm looking at more broadly though is the idea that he seems to suggest that every single layer of not just government but any bureaucratic processes have been essentially infected with the rot of corruption. And that is terrifying. However, as we have said so many times, we just need to wait a little bit because these are initial statements and they will be corroborated or fact-checked or cross-examined. That's not to say they're not real, but to suggest that SAPS is bugging MPs is a very strong thing to say.
We need some evidence of that.
And I'm not saying there's none, but we do need evidence of that because if it is, as he has suggested, this conspiracy that the entirety of the way that our whole country runs, not just the government, is infected, that is deeply, deeply concerning.
Yes. But
and
again,
he is talking directly to who he believes are the compromised.
Yeah, part of the problem, for sure. So one thing to say, again, as James has said, the last time Mkhwanazi said there would be evidence, he spoke at Madlanga, then Masemola did, then Khumalo did and showed the WhatsApps, right? Like Mkhotsi and Matlala's cell phone recording evidence. So evidence is probably coming. That's important to remember. The other thing to remember is that a lot of people are now going to fight back against what he said because he's calling everybody out. So all of this stuff is going to be contested, and it's our job to wait for evidence, work through that evidence, and figure out what coherent story, which story comes out which is more coherent and seems more likely to be true.
Also important that it's not necessarily just quote-unquote Mkhwanazi people who are corroborating his story. What he spoke about with Tembisa Hospital and Khat Matlala and Brown Mkhotsi has been corroborated by independent reporting and the SIU, which is really important to acknowledge.
Totally.
His story does sort of fit in what we have understood to be the truth so far.
What I find so interesting about SAPS as a beast is that so much of it can be compromised, but it can still get work done that the top people don't want to have happen.
For sure.
Like the fact that Mkhwanazi says that arrests are coming, given all we've heard about SAPS, I almost have a knee jerk of like, oh, but surely Senzo Mchunu is going to stop it somehow. Or surely there are going to be rats or moles within the organization that are going to try and stop it. I think that's a reminder that SAPS is an enormous organization. And maybe all of the airing of this dirty laundry is actually going to stop people from stopping Mkhwanazi's work amongst his team and will allow them to actually get some work done.
But that also highlights the fact that our system of justice is so multifaceted and they can at least watch each other.
Yes.
So IPIDs and IDACs and IGI, there is at least a glimmer of hope that they are all watching each other. The watchers are watching the watchers.
For sure.